Beneath the quiet, gentle, and devoted exterior of a family man, no one could have imagined that Zhao Lianying was the cold-blooded killer behind one of Beijing's most horrific massacres. In less than 20 minutes, he brutally took the lives of 8 young women in their dormitory women, who were striving every day and nurturing dreams of a bright future far from home. The brutal crime committed by Zhao Lianying shocked the entire nation of China in the late 1990s. What drove him to commit such an act of unimaginable cruelty? Was it a sudden fit of rage, or were there deeper hidden motives that have yet to be revealed? In today's video, we will delve into the chilling mystery of the case known as the 8 Girls of Shijingshan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel, and stay tuned for more real-life crime stories. Thank you for joining me. At about 3:00 a.m. on May 30th, 1999, Beijing's 110 emergency hotline received 2 urgent calls in quick succession. In the first call, a trembling young woman pleaded for help. "Help, someone is attacking us. He's already stabbed several people." Terrified screams rang out before the line went dead. The command center immediately traced the call and located it in the Shijingshan area. Just minutes later, a second call came from another woman reporting the discovery of a young girl lying motionless at the foot of a building covered in blood and apparently dead. The location matched the earlier call: Building Number 2 Hongda Residential Complex, Number 23 Shijingshan. A horrifying murder case was beginning to unfold. Initial police reports from the area revealed that the number of victims was not 1, but 8. The severity of the case prompted the city's major crimes unit, along with forensic experts, crime scene investigators, and technicians to rush to the scene. In front of building number 2, beside a van, the first body was found a young woman of about 20, her hair disheveled and feet bare. She had been stabbed 6 times, one wound to her neck proving fatal. A trail of blood indicated she had likely been chased and killed elsewhere before being dragged to this spot. From the building entrance, splattered blood led along the corridor to the second floor. Following the trail, police reached room 203. The door was ajar, revealing a scene of horror. The walls, floor, and beds were drenched in red. In the large southern bedroom lay 5 bodies. Li Meiqi, 24, Jiang Shuijin, 22, Wang Manyu, 17, Wu Shengdan, 20, and Xu Huiquan, 20. In the northern bedroom, Xie Zhouying, 24, lay alone in a chilling silence. In the middle room next to the landline phone, Chen Suihua, 21, had collapsed. She was the one who had tried to call for help. The body found at the base of the building was Xiao Maifong, 22. All the victims were dressed in light sleepwear, indicating they were attacked without warning. The killer's brutality was staggering, over 110 stab wounds each aimed at vital points. Due to the extreme nature of the crime, authorities immediately formed a special investigation team codenamed 530. Initial forensic reports showed that all wounds were inflicted by the same type of knife, suggesting the likelihood of a single perpetrator. However, delivering over 110 stab wounds in such a short time pointed to an uncontrollable outburst of rage. Under investigation of the victims' social relations, the authorities discovered that all 8 girls were from Fujian province and worked at the Beijing representative office of Fujian Jindeli Handicraft Apartment 203, where the crime took place, had been rented by the company a year earlier as accommodation and workspace for staff. All the victims were jewelry and silver saleswomen at stalls in major shopping centers. They were young women, attractive, unmarried, and tall, ranging from 1.68 millones to 1.74 mensuurs. Their time living in apartment 203 varied. The longest resident had been there for 8 months, while the newest arrived just 1 day before the tragedy. As migrant workers from rural provinces, they lived a rather secluded life with limited social connections. Their daily routine revolved around selling goods during the day and returning to the dormitory after 10 p.m. According to acquaintances and colleagues, there were no notable conflicts among the victims. A thorough examination of the scene found no signs of harassment or sexual assault, ruling out personal romantic motives or direct disputes as the cause. The crime scene showed clear signs of disturbance. Many handbags were blood-stained and belongings were scattered across the living room. However, police found no usable fingerprints suggesting the killer may have worn gloves. The rummaging seemed hurried and sloppy. In the middle room's desk drawer, police found a bundle of cash worth 20,000 yuan loosely wrapped in newspaper, along with several intact mobile phones. The front door and windows showed no signs of forced entry, implying the killer entered easily. How did he get in unnoticed in the middle of the night? Did he know the victims? And what was his true motive? To quickly find leads, forensic teams worked closely with criminal technicians, conducting a total of 11 meticulous inspections of the scene. The Beijing Municipal Criminal Investigation Department used the most advanced DNA testing available at the time, collecting over 80 blood samples to compare with the victims' genetic profiles to pinpoint the origin of each blood stain. A crucial discovery emerged. Besides the 8 victims, DNA analysis showed traces of a 9th person in apartment 203 extending into the hallway. This was likely the killer who had been injured during the attack. Alongside the blood analysis trace evidence, experts examined remaining signs at the scene, especially not shoe prints or barefoot marks, but a blood-stained sock print. This detail showed the killer was barefoot, except for socks avoiding identifiable shoe prints. Ironically, this revealed the shape of his foot, a key clue to profiling and identifying the murderer. Based on collected evidence, investigators concluded the killer was a man about 1.70 mm tall. Around 3 a.m., he quietly entered the apartment wearing only socks, brutally murdered the 8 women, then fled. The lack of shoe prints outside the scene, along with his blood found only inside and in the hallway, led police to suspect he lived very close, possibly in Building 2 itself. Police immediately began a door-to-door search of the building. Most residents said they heard loud noises and terrified screams that night. But one man drew the attention of veteran investigators Zhao Lianying, who lived in apartment 202 right next to the crime scene. The man had a distinctive pear-shaped face, unkempt stubble, pale complexion, and bloodshot eyes from lack of sleep. Despite being separated from the crime scene by only a thin wall, Zhao claimed he had slept soundly all night and knew nothing about the incident. That day, police collected sock prints from residents. A temporary meeting room was set up with paper and ink ready. Residents were asked to provide samples. Most participated, but none matched the crime scene print. When reviewing the resident list, investigators made a key finding: Zhao Lianying's sock print had not been taken. No one knew when he had left home. Police immediately went to question his wife, Ms. Zhang. Ms. Zhang, who made the second call to the police on the night of the incident, stated that Zhao Lianying had taken their child to her parents' home early that morning. She also provided a crucial detail that opened a new line of investigation. She was not only a resident of the building, but also the night shift operator in the residential complex's central control room. At around 3:30 that morning, she received an urgent call from a resident reporting loud screams coming from the second floor. A sense of dread washed over her. Wasn't that where her own home was? She immediately notified security and hurried back, flashlight in hand, her heart pounding with worry for her husband and child's safety. It took her only 3 minutes to reach the base of the stairwell. From a distance, her flashlight's faint beam illuminated the silhouette of a figure lying motionless against the wall. As she drew closer, she was horrified to realize it was a lifeless body. Panicked, she rushed back to the control room and made her second call to the police. When the police arrived, secured the scene, and allowed her to return to her apartment. Ms. Zhang rushed upstairs, relieved to find her husband and child unharmed. She anxiously told her husband about the brutal killing that had just taken place nearby, and asked if he had heard anything unusual during the night. Zhao Lianying appeared unnervingly calm, claiming he had slept soundly and heard nothing at all. This time, during a private police interview, Ms. Zhang decided to reveal the odd details she had kept to herself. She recounted that when she found the body and looked up from the stairwell, she clearly saw light coming from 2 apartments in the dim early dawn, one from the crime scene, and the other a faint glow from the bathroom of her own second-floor apartment. She even faintly saw a figure moving inside. That figure was Zhao Lianying. This indicated that he had been awake at the time. Moreover, his clothes had been washed in the middle of the night, completely contradicting his claim of sleeping through until morning. Her husband's strange behavior led Ms. Zhang to suspect his involvement in the crime, and ultimately she decided she could no longer stay silent. After taking Zhang's statement, the police immediately considered Zhao Lianying the prime suspect and issued a search warrant. Eventually, the detectives found Zhao Lianying at his workplace. Upon seeing the police, his face clearly showed signs of unease. After informing him of the reason for the summons, the police proceeded to collect footprint samples from Zhao Lianying. Through meticulous comparison with the bloody footprints collected at the scene, forensic experts found that Zhao Lianying's left footprint matched perfectly enough to conclude they were from the same person. However, the right footprint showed a significant difference. Specifically, Zhao Lianying's right foot had the big toe and middle toe pressed together, leaving no mark of the second toe. In contrast, the bloody footprint found at the crime scene clearly displayed the impression of the second toe. Fortunately, thanks to their skill and extensive experience, the footprint analysis expert quickly identified the crux of the issue. This difference could entirely be due to a change in posture during the footprint collection process. The footprint at the scene was made while moving, whereas Zhao Lianying's sample was taken while he was standing still. The difference between motion and stillness created the discrepancy in the impression of the second toe. That very night, the police urgently summoned Zhao Lianying back to headquarters. There, they discovered the unique structure of his right foot. The second toe was unusually long and tended to curl upward, pressing against the big toe and third toe. This was a rare congenital deformity. Zhao Lianying was asked to wear inked socks and leave his footprint on paper. As expected, the footprint lacked the impression of the second toe. Moreover, he was clearly trying to reduce pressure on his foot. The police then laid out several sheets of white paper and asked him to walk over them. When Zhao Lianying moved, the motion of the toe joints gradually revealed the second toe on his right foot. As his walking speed increased, the impression of the second toe became more distinct. The bloody footprint examination results provided sufficient legal grounds to charge Zhao Lianying. However, the task force continued to gather more evidence. Earlier, they had discovered traces of blood from a ninth person at the crime scene, the killer's own blood, suggesting he had been injured during the attack. Detectives asked Zhao Lianying to remove all his clothes. Upon hearing this, he froze, then muttered, "Can I have a cigarette?" After finishing the cigarette, he slowly took off his clothes, revealing a bleeding wound on his thigh. On the night of June 5th, the DNA test results confirmed without doubt that Zhao Lianying's blood type completely matched the ninth blood sample found at the crime scene. At that point, Zhao Lianying had no choice but to confess. During the search of Zhao Lianying's home, the police also found a pair of blood-stained gloves cut into pieces and flushed down a water pipe along with the murder weapon, a fruit knife. Within just 1 week, the particularly serious murder case that had shocked the public was successfully solved. Zhao Lianying was born in 1962 and worked as a lathe operator at a factory in Shijingshan District, Beijing. At the time of the crime, he was 37 years old. About a year earlier, he had noticed a group of young women moving into apartment 203 right next door to his own. They dressed fashionably, often chatted socially with his wife, and said they were from Fujian, working as jewelry salespeople at a large shopping center. Although outwardly there was no sign of conflict, Zhao Lianying secretly observed his new neighbors. His room's window faced south, almost flush with the balcony of apartment 203. He only had to lean out slightly to see everything inside. Zhao noticed that the balcony door next door was often left open at night. An evil idea began to take shape in his mind: sneak in at midnight, kill the women inside, steal their valuables, and vanish without a trace. Who could have guessed that Zhao would later claim he had only intended to steal? But this testimony was wholly unconvincing. Before committing the crime, he had already prepared a sharp fruit knife and had taken no steps to conceal his face. Clearly, his aim was not just theft. He had planned to take the lives of the innocent women to eliminate all witnesses. On the night of May 29, 1999, with his wife working the night shift and his son fast asleep, Zhao lay motionless in the dark, listening intently for sounds from apartment 203. He confirmed that the women had all returned home. His moment had arrived. His window was less than a meter from the neighboring balcony. One jump would be enough to cross over. To avoid leaving traces, he wore only black socks so he could move silently without leaving shoe prints. His original plan was that after committing the crime, he would not return via the balcony, but instead calmly leave apartment 203 through the front door, then walk back into his own home. Just after 3 a.m., Zhao quietly put on dark shorts, thin white gloves, and gripped his sharp knife tightly in his hand. He climbed over the window and landed softly on the balcony of apartment 203. Everything unfolded exactly as he had planned. The wooden door leading inside was unlocked. Without hesitation, he pushed it open and slipped into the bedroom where the women were sleeping soundly, completely unaware that death was approaching. The first victim was Li Meiji. Her piercing scream jolted the others awake. One woman hurriedly switched on the light. Zhao froze in front of him were not 2 or 3 women as he had imagined, but 6, all screaming in panic. At that moment, Zhao knew there was no way back. Only one cold, ruthless thought remained in his mind: eliminate them all as quickly as possible. Immediately after killing Li Meiji, he mercilessly dragged Wang Manyu, the youngest, who had arrived in Beijing only the day before, from the upper bunk. Overwhelmed by terror, the remaining women froze, unable to react or defend themselves. In his frenzy, Zhao attacked each one. Jiang Shuijin, Wu Shengdong, and Xu Huiyuan fell one after another on their beds. Suddenly, the bedroom door flew open. The loud noise had reached the northern bedroom, prompting Xiao Meifeng to rush over. As soon as she pushed the door open, she came face to face with the cold-blooded killer. A single fatal slash left her badly injured, but because of a bit of distance, she managed to turn and flee. At the same time, Chen Ruihua from the adjacent room was also trying to escape. Zhao caught up to her in the living room and struck her down brutally. Just then, he heard a faint cry for help coming from downstairs. It was Xiao Meifeng, desperately trying to get away, calling for help with her last bit of strength. In panic, he immediately left the apartment and rushed down the stairs. Xiao Meifeng reached the first floor, banging on each door, desperately pleading for help. But every door remained tightly shut, and no one answered. Fear had gripped everyone. Zhao suddenly realized his socks were soaked in blood, each step leaving incriminating prints. Panicking, he rushed to the lower floor, slipped on a pair of women's slippers from the apartment, and continued his pursuit. Seeing the killer's shadow, Xiao Meifeng tried to turn and run, but her wounds were too severe, and she collapsed after only a few steps. Just past the doorway, he caught up with her. Fearing his crimes would be discovered too soon, he dragged Xiao Meifeng's body toward a wall near a parked truck. This act suddenly snapped him to awareness. A new fear gripped him that someone might still be alive. He hurried back to the apartment. As soon as he stepped in, Zhao Lianying saw Chen Ruihua trying to crawl toward the landline phone in the middle room. The emergency call had just been connected, and the operator hadn't even had time to verify the situation before Zhao charged in. After killing Chen Ruihua, he heard the sound of the northern room's door slamming shut. That room belonged to Xiao Meifeng, but because Xie Zhouying had just arrived in Beijing on a work trip, she was temporarily sharing a bed with Meifeng. When the horrifying noises broke out, Xiao Meifeng was the first to wake and immediately fled, while Xie Zhouying remained trembling inside the room, too terrified to make a sound. It wasn't until Chen Ruihua tried to call the police that Xie Zhouying dared to cautiously open the door to check the situation. But as soon as she peeked out, she was horrified to see Zhao Lianying coming back. She slammed the door shut, but not long after, Xie Zhouying too was brutally murdered. Once he was sure all the victims were dead, Zhao returned to his original goal, searching for valuables. In panic and anger, he ransacked apartment 203 but found only a few coins in a handbag in the living room. Ironically, in the desk drawer in the middle room was a bundle of cash worth 20,000 yuan. But in the midst of the bloodshed and chaos, he completely overlooked the very money he desired. The entire killing spree lasted about 25 minutes. He had cleverly left his own door slightly ajar beforehand to make escaping easier. After leaving the massacre site of apartment 203, he only had to walk a short distance to quietly return to his own apartment. Still haunted by the fear of leaving evidence, he carefully laid his coat on the floor at his doorway to step on, avoiding getting blood on his slippers before daring to unlock the door and go inside. Back in his cold apartment, his young son was still sleeping peacefully. Zhao began destroying evidence. He cut his blood-stained white gloves into pieces, flushed them down the drain, quickly washed his clothes, and took a thorough bath. While bathing, he noticed a wound on his thigh. He roughly dressed it, then lay down next to his child, his heart full of tension and unease. In his mind, he convinced himself that he had hidden everything well enough and that the police would never find a lead. He didn't expect that his wife's statement when reporting to the police would become the key to unlocking the entire case, and that only a week later, the net of justice would close around the cold-blooded killer. The brutal massacre plunged the entire neighborhood into shock and fear. Many found it hard to believe that a man with such an ordinary appearance could commit such savage crimes. Was Zhao Lianying really as gentle and harmless as he looked? His wife, Ms. Zhang, always described him in glowing terms: a filial son, a responsible family man, neat and orderly, devoted to caring for their child, and socially withdrawn. His only hobby was reading martial arts novels. Yet the reality was entirely different. Zhao was an introverted, resentful man who harbored constant negative thoughts. Though he had no criminal record, he had left behind enough suspicious acts to make others wary. Colleagues described him as cold, difficult to approach, and quick to hold grudges. Originally just a temporary worker, he was given a permanent position thanks to his father's intervention. He frequently arrived late and was scolded by the strict workshop supervisor. In a fit of resentment, he secretly mixed rat poison into steamed buns to kill the supervisor's beloved dog. This cruel act was discovered and reported by a security guard. The supervisor was furious and wanted to fire Zhao, but his father knelt in apology and Zhao was allowed to stay. Instead of feeling remorse, Zhao held a grudge against the guard who had exposed him. To get revenge, Zhao secretly put insecticide into the cage of the guard's treasured canary, killing the bird mysteriously. Although everyone suspected him, a lack of concrete evidence meant the matter gradually faded. These past misdeeds were not mere youthful mistakes, but clear evidence of a twisted mind full of dark schemes, an early warning of the dangerous personality capable of committing the horrific crimes that followed. On July 2nd, 1999, the Beijing No. 1 Intermediate People's Court held a public trial for the serial murder case, attracting significant public attention. At the trial, Zhao Lianying was sentenced to death. The sentence was carried out swiftly after the appeal upheld the original verdict. On the morning of July 21st, 1999, Zhao Lianying was escorted to the execution ground, ending his life of crime. However, the harsh sentence for the perpetrator could not soothe the pain he had caused. 8 young women in the prime of their youth were gone forever. They were daughters far from home, carrying dreams of building a career and hoping for a better life in the bustling city. Now all those dreams and aspirations were destroyed by cruel and merciless stabbings. The case of the 8 girls in Xijing Mountain is considered one of the most brutal and haunting crimes in modern Chinese judicial history, not only because of the number of victims and the cruelty of the killer, but also because the perpetrator was someone completely outside the circle of suspicion, an introvert, quiet, and seemingly harmless man. Most notably, the motive for the crime was not a sudden impulse or loss of control, but the result of prolonged jealousy and resentment. Zhao Lianying could not accept that others, especially those from the same rural background as himself, could live better and be more successful. Inferiority complex, dissatisfaction with fate, and long-repressed envy turned him into a blind avenger against society devoid of humanity. What do you think about this shocking case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel to follow more shocking stories. Goodbye, and see you next time.